4 days ago, a congregant of mine asked me a question if polygamy was a sin, and I responded to it, and that response went viral. It was in the media. Several people did videos about it, and I've gotten a ton of feedback. People wanted me to address the issue further. I try in my ministry to follow scripture, so I follow scripture as far as it goes, and then I do not go further than scripture. I try not to give my own opinion, and that's what I did when I addressed that question. I said to the young man that obviously 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 2 and also verse 12 makes it very clear that the clergy, that is pastors, bishops, overseers, deacons, cannot be polygamists. We have to be the husband of one wife, it says there. But obviously that verse is not talking about the laity. Laity simply means the congregants, people who are not clergy. If you look at it, some of the holiest men in scriptures, like I said when I was responding to him, people like Abraham, Jacob, Elkanah, the father of Samuel, David, and several great men and holy men, people that we knew that were holy, they were polygamists. And so it's very, very difficult to come out and say that, polygamy is a sin. There's a lot of pressure from feminists and then from Western society to do that. But we don't follow feminist or Western society. We follow Christ and we follow scripture. And if you read scripture, like I said, in 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 8, God himself, now this is not a priest or an angel, this is God himself said that he gave David wives. He gave David wives. You can read that yourself, 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 8. And so when you read that, it's rather difficult to come out and say, okay, well, polygamy is a sin. If you read, for instance, Exodus 21, you read from verse 1 all the way to verse 10, you begin to see that regulations were made for polygamy. You see this the laws that David got from God, and they were making, regulations for polygamy. You also see it in Deuteronomy chapter 21. You read that, read the whole verse, but start from the beginning, read up to probably about verse 15. They were making laws for polygamy, for the wives, the order of the wives, and then their children. And so when I'm asked this question, obviously as somebody who believes in scripture and who believes in Christ, I have to be led by a scripture. I cannot be carnally minded. I cannot be led by what is popular. And that's why I said so. I said, I don't know if it is a sin. Now, some people have pointed to what Christ said in Matthew chapter 19, verse 5. You begin from verse 3, read all the way down to 12. Christ wasn't talking about polygamy. He was actually talking in that chapter about adultery and divorce. He was actually talking about adultery and divorce. And see, I read scripture in Greek. A lot of, and that's why I always encourage people to read scripture in the original language. The word that Christ used there is porneia, and then he also used another word referring to one flesh. Now, if you read 1 Corinthians 6:16, that word, one flesh, is also used when he's talking about having intercourse with a harlot or with a prostitute. Now, you can't be, so are you going to say that, okay, when you have sex with a harlot or a prostitute, that she becomes your wife, you are one flesh with her? But that's the same word you use that is translated in the English as one flesh. Now, I'm not saying polygamy is a sin or not a sin. I'm just saying that the scripture is quite about it. And then if you push me further, I'll say, well, scripture, if you read, like I said, Exodus 21, read it up to verse 10, and you read Deuteronomy 21, it does, make allowance for polygamy. So in that sense, it's in my ministry, and I encourage a lot of men of God, or all men of God, to be like that, follow what scripture says, be led by scripture, be led by the Spirit, and the Spirit of God cannot tell you something contrary to scripture. So I repeat it, I don't know if polygamy is a sin. I will not encourage anybody to go into polygamy, but certainly if you are a man of God and you are a polygamist, there's obviously a disconnect somewhere. Either you are not a man of God or scripture is lying, and we all know that God cannot lie. My name is Ronald Mokri, and I hope I've answered this question. God bless you.